Hi, welcome to Variety Tech today. I thought we'd talk about an interesting chapter of Star Wars history, 3D. It all started actually before digital 3D made its modern comeback. Somewhere around late 2003, early 2004 perhaps, George Lucas was shown a demo reel of Star Wars converted to 3D by a company called Dimensionalized. George Lucas has always been an innovator, especially with technology. His reaction to that when he saw it was, "I was truly amazed. The 3D was of a better quality than anything I had previously experienced. Seeing my own Star Wars images in authentic 3D convinced me that it would be a whole new way for audiences to be able to relive the Star Wars films. Dimensionalization significantly enhances the realism of any movie presented in this process." And Rick McCallum, he said, "We sat there in amazement, seeing our own familiar scenes in 3D. I was truly stunned." And then in spring 2005, there were presentations on 3D at a Show West event. That was in March 2005. And for attendees, there was screened not only clips converted to 3D from Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, but also the beginning of the original, Episode 4 A New Hope. Now remember, this was in spring 2005, right before digital 3D really started to take hold and spread through cinemas nationwide, worldwide. It was that fall of that year that Chicken Little from Disney became the first wide release theatrical film that was used a standardized format for digital 3D releases. And this was truly the infancy or pre-infancy of 3D conversion. It's too bad none of these clips are publicly available as far as I know, because that would be very interesting to see 3D conversion examples from this time period, which was so early. About 2008, George Lucas did make a comment that he didn't think that 3D conversion would end up being practical. And perhaps this was due to the limitations of the time, because it took so long to manually convert these things, and they didn't have the powerful software that we have today. But he turned right around on that opinion again, because software progressed rapidly, and soon 3D conversion became a regular thing. Now keep in mind that at the very beginning of mainstream 3D converted releases, there were some movies that were decided to be converted last minute, and they just didn't have the ability at the time to create powerful 3D, so it was very faint 3D. It wasn't always inaccurate, but it was like not a dramatic difference than 2D. Very subtle. Sometimes there would be inaccuracies, but there was one famous example. It was Clash of the Titans. That became famously known as the worst 3D film ever made because it was blatant inaccuracies, and they had such a short time to work with. And I've seen clips from it, and it truly does look horrible. Rotoscoping is off all over the place. Barely an accurate scene in it. But thankfully, that time period was super short-lived. It did give 3D conversions a bad name, but mostly with people who really don't know what they're talking about and hadn't seen most 3D conversions, because 3D conversions quickly became much better and even had the possibility with enough time and budget to be much better than native 3D movies, and there's many examples of that nowadays. So anyway, George Lucas committed himself to releasing the entire Star Wars saga up to that point in 3D. And he was going to do it what I think is the right way, and the numbers speak for that. Episodes 1 through 6, episodic order, the story that he wanted to tell. The first release was Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and that was in February of 2012. And then, later that year, out of nowhere, the news was broken that George Lucas had sold Lucasfilm to Disney, and that work was underway on a sequel trilogy, Episodes 7, 8, and 9. It wasn't said at the time, but it did come out later that George Lucas had already been working on this sequel trilogy even before Disney became involved. He already had story treatments, and he had already approached Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford privately to let them know that he would like them to return. So I'm going to make an assertion here. I think it's plainly obvious that George Lucas wanted to release all his movies to lead up to his sequel trilogy. He had already done this in the 90s. To lead up to the prequel trilogy, he had re-released the originals, and they were new, enhanced versions with the technology of the time. And then now with the sequels, which he was already in the process of making, personally, I don't think there's any doubt that his intention was to release these and lead up to that in the same fashion, using the current technology of 3D conversion. Now, seeing as Episode 1's 3D conversion was released in early 2012, it was in the earlier era of 3D conversions, and as such it was not as powerful as 3D conversions are today. It was still good 3D, it was accurate, it just wasn't powerful like it can be today. Then it was announced that Episodes 2 and 3, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, were going to be released in 2013. 1 month apart from each other, back to back. However, Disney thought they knew better, and they started making a slew of changes. They kept some key aspects of George Lucas's story treatment for the sequels, but they also made a lot of additions and changes. They also canceled the Clone Wars series out of nowhere, even though they were in the middle of telling multiple story arcs and had plans for future ones, even partially animated, a decision that they later partially reversed. And, yes, they canceled the 3D re-releases of Star Wars. Apparently they had the mentality of a business focus group because they thought that looking at an average internet forum and seeing comments bashing the prequels was somehow representative of the views of all society. So they thought, we must focus only on the original trilogy, their aesthetic, and that this will be the key to the success, like a businessman would think, not an artist like George Lucas was. But speaking of making decisions like a businessman, it's ironic that they did something stupid in that regard. They had the 3D versions of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith ready to go, fully completed. In fact, they were screened at a couple of Star Wars fan celebration events. And the word was that they were representative of that time period in 3D conversion quality. They had gotten more powerful and on par with current 3D releases, so the 3D was getting much better. But to this date, they have not been released. Not theatrically and not even on Blu-ray. So that's the go figure part about it. You've paid all this money for these things, and you're not releasing them. And, making money, at least recouping your costs, much less making money, which they would, because this is Star Wars we're talking about, obviously. It could be argued that at the time they didn't want to share profits with 20th Century Fox, and that does make sense. But they bought Fox since then, so it's all in the family now. So there's really no reason not to release them. But really, Disney has done this with their own films. For instance, Raya and the Last Dragon, Ralph Breaks the Internet, that absurdly expensive Japan release doesn't count. Pete's Dragon, Mulan. And again, they exist, and all they have to do is print it to a disc, even through their own Disney Movie Club. They wouldn't have to share profits with anyone. They could literally rip people off for bare bones releases, and the bait would be taken. So it's like they don't want money for that. I don't know why. There's just some strange blinders going on when it comes to 3D in relation to everything else. When they did start making the new movies, they did try a couple of 3D releases in America. The Force Awakens, the 3D version was released a year after the regular one. So they tried to market it to everyone, not just people who like 3D. And it came in this collectible lenticular packaging with artwork. As well as exclusive bonus features. And the same thing the following year with Rogue One, with collectible packaging and exclusive extras. But from there on out, it was UK only. Episode 8, Solo, Episode 9. There was a seller on eBay that was selling 3D versions of the Star Wars movies. It's Russian. I was pretty sure it was a bootleg, but I thought, hey, it's worth a shot. What if it actually was a rip from the DCP of the original 3D theatrical release from 2012? But it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just a bad copy from the Blu-ray that wasn't even complete, actually, and converted into 3D by just pushing it into the screen. But they didn't do a bad job on it, though. It's obviously a BDR recordable disc, but has professional printing on the disc face. And not bad packaging. Of course I got my money back, because it's easy to get your money back when it's a blatant bootleg on eBay. But I keep that out of curiosity. So yeah, Disney, release your 3D movies. Seriously. You're sitting on money. It's benefiting no one. I don't know what you're waiting for. As Palpatine would say, do it.